Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tagline podcast. It is I, your gracious host, the Meerkat Monarch, and today I'm joined by my co-host and co-creator of this podcast, my buddy,
Gene the Angry Penguin. And this week we'll be discussing Mr. Stanley Kubrick,
yeah,
a well-known and very strange director in some areas.
and
And
the actual, the hipster of movie making, or the hipster's choice when it comes to favorite director.
well, you've got the background, you've got the training much more than I do in
Yeah,
the actual art of film.
yeah.
The end of 2001, genius or ran out of funding bullshit?
Here's the thing. Might be a little bit of both.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not saying that that he didn't. Here's the thing that people need to understand about Stanley Kubrick, okay? He planned everything down to the tiniest detail in every shot. He was highly historically inaccurate with a lot of his movies, like Full Metal Jacket is filled with, there are apartment buildings in Full Metal Jacket, which is kind of odd because very little of the fighting went on in those kinds of areas. So in Vietnam. So, but the thing is that he spent so much time planning everything down to the very last detail, and that he knew exactly how he wanted not just every shot, but every frame. Every frame was sort of meticulously planned, and he would go to extremes sometimes. The way that he would treat some of the actors or actresses if a shot didn't go the right way. So the ending of 2001, going back to what I started talking about, the ending of 2001 might be a little bit of both, because he spent so much time working on every movie that there might have been some sort of, oh shit, what am I going to do here? Because he never explained properly the ending of 2001. It was never properly addressed in the way that you would think a movie of that scale would be. And it's been analyzed to death, and nobody seems to have really understood it. If that makes sense, that is.
Well, yeah. I mean, and as far as his legendary attention to detail and abuse of the talent, I think everybody's heard what went on with The Shining.
Yeah.
Uh, so you see in something like The Shining, that level of detail really just comes to the forefront.
Yeah.
I can watch that film as many times as I've already watched it. I could watch it again and it still creeps the hell out of me.
Yeah, it's the type of movie that it's sort of the good endings of horror movies, if that makes any sense, but it's still it's a weird one. It goes into more the unseen fears than necessarily which all really good horror movies go into that sort of idea of the unknown being the really, really dangerous things. And
Oh yeah.
The Shining is a perfect example of it. And the weird thing is that Stephen King, who wrote The Shining, never actually liked that adaptation. He never got on board with that.
Well, if you've read the book, and I'm a huge Stephen King fan, if you've read the book, I could see why. The the focus was a little bit different in the movie. It was more on the kid,
Yeah.
uh, but more it was a story of Jack's character, the
Yeah.
dad. It has more of a redemptive arc to it than just him dead in the snow, which is just as far as filmmaking goes. That's just a great scene. That's just a scene stuck in your
Yeah.
head,
Yeah.
you know. And people can just picture it when I just mention it, you know, probably crystal clear. Uh, but yeah, it's I could see why.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's one of the few times, like when I look at it versus the book, it's a real adaptation. It's not just a remake or a copy or something like that. He took Stephen King's story and he made his own story out of that story.
Yeah.
You know, if that makes sense.
No, no, no. I'm totally on board with what you're saying. It's. I have read the Shining in the Norwegian version, basically the translated version. So I may have to read it again in English, but it is it's a completely different story. That's true, but it's still. I think it's The Shining is such a masterpiece in horror, and that's the thing about Stanley Kubrick. He never actually got pinned down to any sort of genre, especially after his initial breakthrough, because he used to make. I have the filmography in front of me, and after the sort of breakthrough with Spartacus, Lolita, Doctor Strangelove, he doesn't get tied down to any sort of genre whatsoever.
Well, I mean, look at the list you just gave:
Yeah.
Spartacus, Lolita, and Doctor Strangelove.
It's Spartacus is a historical Sandal movie, which is was probably one of the it was one of the greatest movies made at that time, with a vast amount of great actors like Kirk Douglas and Laurence Olivier and so on. It's just amazingly well crafted movie. So, and then you have Lolita, which is this risque kind of love story, yet also a moral tale, which is that movie. I understand why people don't like it, because it handles a lot of taboo subjects, and yet it is a masterpiece in film. Absolutely.
It is definitely one I need to see,
Yeah.
but it's just the subject matter is so
Yeah, it's
off-putting.
yeah,
You know?
it's not a very happy subject to tackle whatsoever, and I totally get why people get turned off by that movie. It's not a family friendly movie, so to speak.
You know, and looking at this filmography,
That
wouldn't you
movie,
love if looking at the next film on the list, Doctor
family
Strangelove,
friendly.
wouldn't you love if some genius director came and made a Doctor Strangelove style film for the modern age
Oh
with
yeah.
our stereotypes and our cliches?
Oh, it would be. I mean, Doctor Strangelove is one of the. In my opinion, it is his masterpiece, because it is it's such good fucking satire. It nails everything about the irony of war and trying to create peace through military actions and everything. And I know that it's you being a more conservative person might find a lot of the things in that movie as being a little bit too liberal, cartoonish, or
No, no.
characters of that industry.
Well, I mean, that's what the film's. It's, that's the thing.
Yeah,
It's excellent satire,
yeah,
and you can't even if it's your side getting made fun of, you can't get mad at excellent satire. It is one of my favorite films to sit down and watch sometime.
yeah,
Just everything about it, all the characters are just wonderful. Uh, it's
yeah. And the lines, the screenplay is so well written. The jokes are so. It's like, and I hope some genius director takes it upon himself to sort of make a satire of the political environment we're in right now. It would be amazingly funny to see versions of the line, "There's no fighting in the war room," for our generation of bad actors in the political sphere. It would be awesome. It would be great. There are so many good characters as well. I mean, and the thing is, their characters. God damn it, my words and me are not very friendly
well,
because I've been doing woodwork all day, so my mouth is filled with sand dust.
if you've got to wet the wood, you can use like a wet rag. You don't have to lick it.
But it tastes so good.
No, but back to the point.
Yeah,
Yes, they're real characters. Each character, I'm horrible with names, so I can't remember the names. You have the crazy commander that starts it all
yeah,
off, and the scenes with him,
yeah,
like when everything goes super serious for a second. When you really realize what's happening, and they still manage to mix that humor with the fact that this guy's gone insane
yeah.
with
Oh,
with with that's those scenes. I love those because they're counterweight to all everything else because it's a military base, and it's a U.S. military base, but I think everybody can relate to the idea of their own military fighting itself
yeah,
because some crazy guy told them was lying to his own troops, and how like serious an issue that is, and how much weight all of that carried. And at the same time, he's spouting hilarious lines about fluoride.
yeah,
Oh. you know, uh,
yeah. And
and
it is. But okay, I'm sorry. There was somebody talking to me in chat. Um, there's something about the uh, the way that the characters are portrayed. They are human, yet they are also extreme versions of themselves. To put it like that, as you said, the mad Air Force captain or Air Force major, I can't remember, but the commander of that base. It is it was after this that kind of movie and that kind of publicity about it that I think the U.S. implemented some extra rules in its structure, so that kind of situation couldn't happen. And after the movie got released, but before the movie got released, it could actually happen. I'm not sure if that is true, but that is things that we were told during my studies when we analyzed this
it,
movie.
it wouldn't really surprise me because nobody may have actually thought that what happens if one of our own officers just loses it.
Yeah.
You know, what do we do in a case like that? You know, and the seriousness of the Cold War and everything else behind it. And that's the thing. You can look at this film, and I think this can be said of several other. I mean, obviously, several other of Kubrick's films. You can start discussions easily based on just sitting there watching the film and this just go off, and it's going to take you into the political or the philosophical really easily. You know, because they're so grounded in these ideas, and the characters are so that might be like someone you know because that's a real character. It's a
Yeah,
real
and
person.
the worst part is that it could be. It's very Doctor Strangelove is very apt now as well because there are these sort of extreme personalities in the public sphere as we're speaking, and it's insanity to see the kind of division that actually that is that exists in Doctor Strangelove that also exists now in our society. You have a bunch of reasonable people trying to talk to each other, and then you have extreme morons really fucking the situation up for everybody. It's a very apt, and I think that a lot of people call it an anti-war movie. Yes, it is an anti-war movie, but uh, it's also an important
Well, it's like it's
portrait.
good.
Yeah, it's a
It's good
portrait.
satire.
Yeah,
This is
it's
how people act.
yeah, yeah,
Here's me talking about it in a funny way, so you're not depressed by it. But this is how real people are. This is how
yes. I
the
have
beef
become
gets
aware
made.
of this. I have become aware of this, and the yeah, and the thing is that I think that a lot of his movies are they're very ahead of its time, apart from one. And I know a lot of people really, or some people agree with me on this, and that's the Ice Wide Shut, his last fully completed movie. I think may have been the one that is his weakest.
I couldn't even bring myself to watch it.
Yeah,
It just didn't sound interesting at all. And even like something like Lolita, the subject matter's dark,
yeah,
and you know heavy, but you can watch it just based on the fact that it's this classic film by a great director. Uh, Eyes Wide Shut it just seemed like somebody who was, I hate to say it, past their prime. That sounds awful, but trying to recapture what they used to do.
yeah, and it's also this sort of fake controversy movie where it's addressing things that are no longer really controversial. The fact that he goes out or the woman talks about fantasizing about another man, and that causes him to go out and go on this erotic rampage almost. And it's just, yeah, those types of things are not necessarily controversial anymore, so you
Yeah,
wouldn't
it's
get that kind of reaction anymore out of a
well,
dude.
it's a taboo that passed. You know,
Yeah,
after when he was younger, yeah, that would have been taboo, and you would in the 60s and 70s, you know,
yeah,
you had the sexual awakening and all that, and then now generally by what was that 99, uh, you know, pretty much everybody was on the same level as far as talking about their wants and desires. You know, men and women had kind of come together on that issue, and everybody just kind of talked about it. It wasn't a shock to hear a woman say she was fantasizing about
no, exactly, and
Tom
that
Cruise.
when you're basing your movie on on a book that addressed morality in the 19th century, then yes, if you made that movie like during the 50s or the 60s, I totally see why you did. And it is I totally get why you're saying that. It feels like somebody's trying to recapture. Maybe he was trying to recapture something that he had when he made Lolita, that he felt like, oh. And the weird thing is that when I think about it, that is sort of when you don't look at Doctor Strangelove, his next project after Eyes Wide Shut was AI. And that's
Wow,
a science fiction. That was actually, the Eyes Wide Shut was the first time in his career that he sort of went back to a type of genre he's done before. I mean, Full Metal Jacket was also a way that he went back into something he knew from before, the type of war movies he made early in his career with Paths of Glory and so on. And I'm not saying that he ran on empty during the last part of his career, not at all, because I still consider the last movies he was involved in, like AI and the others, they're not bad movies. They're just not living up to their potential, if you get what I mean.
Well,
I know
AI
that a
was-
lot of people love Full Metal Jacket, but it's a bit disjointed. It feels like there's two stories there that have been sewn together for convenience. And I know that it's based
I don't
upon a
know if it
book.
was so much convenience or just expressing the difference between
Yeah. I know.
boot camp
I
and
know.
real war. I mean,
It's
that's
just,
how it felt
and
to me.
I fucking love that movie. I'm just, the thing is that sometimes even things you love, you can see flaws in. Like with my wood carvings, I see flaws in them. Absolutely. And Fizzy's mad at me now because that's his favorite Kubrick movie. And
How's it feel to
yes,
be wrong, Fizzy?
yeah. No, I'm not saying that anybody's wrong. It just feels like it for me when I'm watching that. It feels a little bit disjointed, and I know I get why he did what he did and why he did it, because it is that sort of break from the innocent sort of pro-war type of scenario that they are in the boot camp, over to the war-weary people that you see in the second half of the movie. It just
Yeah.
the pacing seems a little bit off because the actual acts don't necessarily reveal themselves as easily. But I
Well, it's a movie
fucking
that's
yeah.
it's a 3-act movie that has Act 1 and Act 3. Uh, that's
Yeah. Well,
that's
it's
that's basically how it's designed.
yeah. And I'm not saying that anybody who loves Full Metal Jackets are fools, but I'm just saying that it, it just like Ice Wide Shut felt. It felt like he was searching for something, but he couldn't really find it. And you got to remember, there were 12 years between him making Full Metal Jacket and Ice Wide Shut, because he couldn't really get any other projects off the ground, and sometimes he didn't feel like working as well. So he wasn't one for being a very productive filmmaker, by no means. I mean,
I wouldn't imagine so. Just the level of intensity that
yeah,
would have to go into that level of detail.
Yeah,
uh, would would uh, would
yeah,
make it difficult to maintain.
it
You
would
know,
kill you if you did it like on a regular basis. It's it's just I when I look at that list, I just feel like, oh man, if he'd just, you know, made a couple of Hollywood movies, and I immediately arrest myself, from the heresy of saying something like that. But it's
well, I mean, the things that made him a great director
yeah,
made him a terrible traditional Hollywood director.
yeah,
You
absolutely,
know?
absolutely,
And
uh,
I think in some ways you're right when you say he was definitely ahead of his time, because I think the current generation of your young to middling aged actors that are out there now would be more open to a director who was willing to put them through the ringer for a good movie.
oh yeah, I
Yeah.
think there's a problem now. I'm gonna say it, still risking my livelihood by saying it. There's a problem in the movie industry right now with too much star power, and I guess that's always been the case. But directors and writers are the ones that are. I mean, I'm not saying that fucking actors don't do anything. But when it really comes down to the people that actually put a lot of work into it, the writer and director and the fucking crew are the ones
Oh
that
yeah.
that slave over things every time. So I'm not even sure that a director like Kubrick would be able to work with anybody at the
Well, no,
moment.
I guarantee you he would. I
Yeah,
guarantee you he'd find talent, and he'd probably find people that would go on to make regular Hollywood films,
yeah,
but he would be the type of director that could showcase a new talent in a role that the big talent wouldn't take.
yeah. That I think that's a very very apt way of looking at it as well. And I mean, he he wouldn't he would have probably appreciated the more democratic way of how filmmaking works now, with the fact that you have a far more digitized version of shooting film. But I still think he would be one of the more conservative directors out there, and being sort of, yeah, I'm gonna work on film, and kind of the minor hipster attitude of,
Well, I could get I could see him with the modern tools
yeah,
being able to I could see him filming normally and then going back and tweaking a million little things in post
yeah,
with the digital tools we have today. You know, like if something was, and he might have actually been a lot more productive in today's environment with the fact that you don't have to do 170 takes when that one thing you didn't like, you can change digitally in post if it's a
uh,
little thing.
I'm just gonna let you know right now, um, that attitude of fixing things in post is really frowned upon in the movie making industry. Nobody
See, that's
fucking
why
likes it.
I think that's a cliche. And I'm not talking about big things. I'm talking about those little
Yeah, yeah, I
nitpick.
know.
I'm not talking about, oh, the
No,
axe went through the door backwards. We'll just turn it around with computer graphics
yeah,
because I like that take. No, it's I'm talking about like
yeah, tweaking and making
you
it,
didn't
yeah,
like the color of the wallpaper in that scene. You know, that's something you can literally change and nobody will know that you changed it.
yeah. That's very true, and I think that I think he would have appreciated the CGI element, maybe, but I still think he would be more in the not in the Warcraft or Avatar field, but more in the Midland way, the Peter Jackson sort of way of working, combining the two.
And Peter Jackson, getting off topic, I can't stand how he uses CG. Cannot stand it. It's so it's so blatant. It's
Yeah,
so obvious and it's so poorly done. It's like, how do you have this kind of budget and use this kind of time behind the camera and then let somebody make it look like garbage in post?
yeah,
But that might just be because of the scale, you know?
yeah, yeah. It, that might be it, but who knows?
We have
Yeah,
missed A Clockwork Orange.
yeah. Well, so much has been said about Clockwork Orange. Really, it's it's the okay. We could talk a little bit about it because it is the
No, the only thing I was going to say about Clockwork Orange is that opposed to some of the other films where there may be more, there's not a lot of nuance in A Clockwork Orange.
no, no.
The point hits you over the head, like
It's a
dead
hammer.
on.
It's a hammer to the head.
Yeah.
The message is just yeah.
I mean,
Maybe
you could get a little conversation out of the ending, I think, and interpretations of that.
yeah.
But as far as that goes, the point of the film isn't the ending. The ending's a nice little cherry on top, but the whole film's obviously talking about just cultural critique.
And it is also the movie that sort of sparked the violence in media debate back then. Because it I can remember a lot of people talking about the or Clockwork Orange as though it would cause mass, as though it had caused mass riots in the streets and ultra violence on the vidi. You know, it it just yeah.
See, I love how people cherry pick stuff like that
Yeah.
because I don't watch much 70s horror.
No.
And nobody ever talks about the 70s horror. And the reason I don't watch a lot of 70s horror is I don't go in for the gore. That
No. No.
like
I
and
agree.
70s horror is some of the I don't think anything in the past 2 decades is worse than anything that was made in the 70s.
Uh, maybe. I've seen some shitty stuff,
Well, I mean,
and I'm specifically talking about Asylum Productions. Okay, so yeah.
well, Asylum doesn't count. Asylum is
You get
you can
withdraw.
you can debate Hershey versus Cadbury. You can debate that.
Yeah,
These are two different major chocolate manufacturers, and they got different ingredients, different tastes. You
or
can debate that.
Freya, the Norwegian major chocolate maker.
But when you talk about Asylum, you're
Yeah,
basically saying, let's compare Hershey to Cadbury to that 2 cent a piece Halloween candy that the nice old lady down the street gave you, and you don't have the heart to tell her you're going to egg her house later.
uh,
Uh, it's like it is just mass produced. All the ingredients are shit,
yeah,
and the people who made it don't care.
yeah,
They want that sweet little old lady money, and then they go on with their lives.
yeah. Well, we're just talking about a director who had two of his best movies during the 70s. So, yeah. I don't know if I quite trust you with that.
Well, no, when I say bad, when I'm talking about the 70s, I'm talking about the level of violence.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm talking
Oh
about. I'm
yeah.
not talking about quality of film.
Oh yeah.
Oh no.
Oh,
Oh no.
and the
The 70s
worst
had some great.
and the worst thing is that if you read statistics, you clearly see that the amount of violence in the world has gone, especially in the Western world, has gone down since the 1970s. So maybe ultraviolence is the answer. Maybe we should have more ultra violence on the video.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it seems to be working.
Yeah.
We have gotten way off topic.
Yeah, we should probably end it there because no constructive version of this conversation should continue. We can.
Well, there's no construction left to do.
No,
the house burned down and everybody ran away.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we thought we'd do the dictator thing next week because we're a little pissed off at people for voting in Stanley Kubrick when we wanted to talk about Terry Gilliam. So we're gonna next week we're gonna cover Terry Gilliam.
And I for the people listening, I have some actual homework for you. These aren't suggestions. This is homework.
Yeah.
You need to watch these films. You need to watch Time Bandits, The Adventures of Baron von Munchausen, and Tagline.
Tagline, yes. Yes.
Go watch
those three movies.
Last because you won't watch any of the others if you watch it first.
Yeah. You start with Time Bandits and then go through the rest. Okay? Yeah.
Do that. And do you have any suggestions for films this week?
Stanley Kubrick movies. Watch Dr. Strangelove. Please. Do it.
In the vein of Dr. Strangelove and social satire, I'm going to recommend you also watch, if you haven't seen it, In the Loop.
Yeah.
It is a satire of early 2000s politics in England and America.
Yeah. That's a good one. Good one. I'm gonna let you end it since you do it so beautifully every time. I don't think you did last week, but
I did, but I was tired. We were both off our game last week.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning into the Tagline podcast with the Meerkat Monarch, J.H. Lillevik, and myself, Gene the Angry Penguin. We will be seeing you next week when we talk about Terry Gilliam, and you can catch Jan on Fridays at what time, Jan?
Well, it's 10 Central European time, so that would be
it's
4 o'clock Standard Eastern Standard Time, and then 7.
Yeah, that's correct.
No, 5. 3 your time. 3
my time.
Yeah,
Central. Okay.
Yeah.
It is 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Is when they start, and that's the Unsolicited Opinions podcast with Yan and Artemis and Dr. Evil and the rest of the gang. And y'all have a nice week, and thanks for tuning in.
Bye.